All right, everybody. I want to welcome you to my next interview. I've been going over The Last Dance and talking basketball with some of my friends from my playing days. Today, I am honored and thrilled, really, to interview a big brother of mine, guy, 15-year NBA career, three-time world champion with the Chicago Bulls, UNC star. Please welcome my man, Mr. Scott Williams. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. Thank you very much for gracing me and honoring me to come on and speak with you. It's been too long since we've had a chance to talk, so I'm really looking forward to this. Now, if my eyes start watering, I'm not quite used to this StreamYard yet. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to look at the camera or just look at you on the photo over here. So
you just we'll find you wherever you're at. So you just do you. It's all good.
Yeah, I've been enjoying. I mean, this has been awesome for me. 30 years ago is when we had the whole Last Dance, or the First Dance, as I like you correctly said, I like to call it the First Dance. And I've reconnected with so many of my former teammates and coaches and guys that I played either with or against in the league on other teams. It has been a lot of fun because I'm a sports guy. I absolutely love sports, whether it's spring training baseball or football or basketball or you name it. I mean, hockey, I go to hockey games. So when the whole shutdown started, we wiped out March Madness and the NBA playoffs, and you didn't have baseball to turn to, I have just been jonesing for any new type of outlet to be able to enjoy sports. So when they moved up The Last Dance and said, we'll release this, every Sunday in the Williams household is like a Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, I'm planning my meals around what I'm gonna eat before The Last Dance. If I got to run out, pick something up, I go to Maggiano's a lot. It puts me back in that Chicago mindset. I go to Maggiano, get some chicken marsala, maybe a Caesar salad, a little tiramisu. Pair that with a little red wine. I lock in and I'm ready for those 2 hours. It's been great.
So my first question for you is, on one of the episodes, Michael Jordan said, there would be no Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. So my question is, if they would have made this after the first three-peat, would he have said, there is no Michael Jordan without Scottie Williams? I mean, because that's what I feel.
You're making me laugh now, but hey, one of my famous lines is, Jordan was a scorer, but he never won a championship till Williams got to Chicago. So
hey, see, that's what I'm saying, though.
No, I had some fun with that, but Jordan. First of all, people don't realize he can be very gracious with his praise for other players. I think you hear him talk about Pippen, and that's high praise. But Scottie's earned that. If he retires and plays baseball, there's no baseball strike, and he goes on to hit 200 in the major leagues or something like that, the Bulls dynasty, it wouldn't be what it is. And I don't know if he ever would have found that gear to say there's no Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. I think part of that is the coming back and then recreating what he had just done. I mean, I don't know how many players at that level can honestly say they would be able to take 2 years off, change your body, and then come back and get ready for the sport that you love and then go on and be that successful with it. Not just making the playoffs and getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, but to go all the way and seal the deal 3 more times. And that was impressive. And I love Pip. And the series has shown some things about Pip that I didn't know after I left Chicago, and contract stuff. I mean, with Jerry Krause. I mean, he was cruel to Jerry Krause and some of those.
Very much so.
Talked about. I mean, we all had issues with Jerry Krause. I mean, it's portrayed accurately. There's no Hollywood drama or sensationalism or feeding guys lines to say. We all are giving, it looks like the players in the way that were interviewed are giving their honest accounts of their emotions or their feelings or their recollections of what happened. And I think that's been the coolest part of this. Guys have opened up. I mean, Pippen's opened up. I mean, Jordan breaking down there at the end of episode 7 when he was talking about his teammates and how the price that he had to pay to accomplish the goals that he wanted. It wasn't just about winning one championship. It was about separating himself from the greats of the game, not just the Hall of Famers, but the great Hall of Famers, the Magic Johnsons and Larry Birds. I mean, that special class over there in Springfield, Mass. at the Hall of Fame. He wanted to separate himself from that and leave no doubt that he was the greatest player of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just amazing what he was able to accomplish. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, my next question was, out of high school, you were a stud. I mean, McDonald's All-American, on all the All-Americans list. What made you choose North Carolina?
Well, stud may not be the right word. I came on real quickly right after kind of my junior year in high school. I came in the small suburbs of Hacienda Heights, California. It's a suburb of Los Angeles for those that don't know. But right before the start of my senior year, I went and played I got on one of these AAU teams. And AAU basketball wasn't like it is today. It was just some buddies that you knew from kind of playing around your area, and you got some coach to kind of just organize a few things, and you played ball. That was it, just a way to play ball in the summertime. But he put together this group that was going to go out to Memphis, Tennessee to play in this national championship tournament. And I just caught lightning in a bottle of matchups that I had. We're all competitive. You don't get to what accomplishes, college basketball, NBA basketball, if you don't have a degree of competitiveness. And I just really, for about a month between that tournament, the Nike basketball tournament in Princeton, New Jersey, they had a tournament in Las Vegas where I got to meet my good friend Rex Chapman for the first time. He was playing on a team from Kentucky. I went from kind of just a solid player in the SoCal area to top 5 player in the country in, like I say, 30-day period of time. So it was kind of all new to me, but I started getting
– That's a jump right there. I mean –
well, I started getting all these coaches. I was getting some like Santa Barbara, Pepperdine, Irvine. Those are the schools that were recruiting me prior to those 30 days. And then after that, it was North Carolina, Duke, NC State, Indiana, Villanova, fresh off a national championship, Georgia Tech. It was a whole different stratosphere of the coaches and programs that were talking to me. And I always wanted to be a Bruin. That was my goal. I'm going to play for the Bruins and play for the Lakers, man. That's where basketball started in California and it ended in California for me, especially Southern California. But when it was time for me to be recruited, Walt Hazard was recruiting another kid named Kevin Walker, and we got all our information from the newspaper. And I'm not getting any love, but he's getting his name in the paper, the LA Times. I'm getting a little jelly. And I got North Carolina and NC State with Valvano and Dean Smith and Bobby Knight, trying to come into my games, talking to my teachers, meeting my teammates, find out who I was. And Coach Smith was very savvy because when he came in for his home recruiting official visit, he invited my mother to come back to North Carolina to Chapel Hill when I went back for my official visit on campus. And she jumped at that opportunity. And she just fell in love with Chapel Hill, small time, college town, with a great university, the oldest state university in the country. So you can imagine the beauty that was Chapel Hill in the 80s campus. So before we even left, she wanted me to tell Coach Smith I was coming to school there. But I always wanted to see UCLA, so I was holding on. But when it was time for me to go to my visit, Coach Hazard had contacted me and said that one of the secretaries had transposed the digit of my telephone number incorrectly, and that every time they ring my phone, they would get a busy signal. So I was like, even as a 17-year-old young punk, I was like, that don't sound right. I'm 45 minutes down the road. You could have jumped in your car and drove out and meet me and my coach or principal, that sort of stuff. And these other coaches can fly 3,000 miles. So I was like a little hesitant, like maybe they don't want me as much as they're kind of getting on. And I ended up going to North Carolina. It was the best decision of my life.
So when you played in the McDonald's All-American game, who was the most talented player in that game? Do you remember?
Yeah, 86. I don't remember all the names. These wheels don't crank like they used to. But, J.R. Reed was the top player in the nation. When I say I was the top five, he was a clear-cut number one. There wasn't a whole like who's really number one, or it's a big drop-off between first and second. So he was the top player, and after I had committed to North Carolina, that jive turkey, he said he was going to go to North Carolina because he didn't want to have to play center in college, and he thought he could force me over to center when I was really kind of a natural power forward.
Really?
I realized when I'm going to play alongside this cat, I better go ahead and get some minutes at center if I want to stay on the floor. So but that's what I ended up doing. We became fast friends right away. That was the great thing about that class that they brought in. With JR and myself, there was another 16 guy, Pete Chilcutt, went on a nice pro career, as you know. And Rex Chapman was supposed to come to North Carolina and gave Coach Smith the okie doke before and ended up staying in Kentucky. Yeah, we always used to joke, Rex, and I still do. I mean, I think there was a brown bag that showed up one day on the Chapman doorstep. But as it turns out, he doesn't come late. They ended up finding a local kid down the road in North Carolina because they needed a shooting guard, and the guy's name was Jeff Denny. And Jeff Denny and I were roommates. So Coach Smith was sad. He put me with a guy that had family in North Carolina, and Jeff and I have been fast friends since '86. We still talk to each other. He's like my younger brother, even though he's older than me.
Now, I know you probably have a lot of these, but what would you say was your most memorable experience at Chapel Hill as a player? Either there or on the road.
I do have a lot. One of the things I remember is Coach Smith. He had players from all over, whether you're in New York, me in California, guys, Chilcutt from Alabama, guys from the Midwest, Joe Wolf from Wisconsin. One thing that was always cool is he always said, during your 4 years in Chapel Hill, we will always schedule at least one game in your hometown area. It didn't have to be right in your hometown because not everybody has a university, but we got to travel around the country to different guys' hometowns. Heck, we had one guy from London, England, and we went and played in a two-game tournament over in England one time, which was really cool. So here I am, a SoCal kid. Outside of that tournament I told you about my freshman year, or after my junior year, where I went to Tennessee and New Jersey, I really never left the state of California my entire life. We didn't have the money to really travel. So all I knew was traveling around between Northern California and Southern California for basketball or small little weekend trips with the family that you could gas up the vehicle and take the pet. So for me to be able to travel around to Alaska and Hawaii and London, England, and New York City and see all these different areas of the country, I thought that was great. And that's before a lot of colleges did that. I mean, now it's commonplace. You schedule tournaments everywhere. You go to the islands, the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, and these guys do that stuff like, they don't even think twice about it in 2020. But back then it was a big deal and a big thrill to be able to do that. So I got one story that I'll share. It's a little embarrassing, but so one of our trips to New York, we'll play at the Garden was for a guy named Kitty Smith. And, of course, Kitty Smith from TNT. Well, the Jet was one hell of a basketball player, a point guard. He was the best point guard in the country.
Yeah. So
when I was coming in from Los Angeles, I always used to tell Pete Chilcutt from Alabama and Jeff Denny from North Carolina that I was city-wise. And when we go to New York on this trip, you guys just stay close to me because I'll make sure nothing happens to you in the big city. Well, we're walking down the street one day, and there's this guy playing this 3-card Monte on the sidewalk. He got the cardboard box, and he's shuffling the cards up. He's got the 2 kings and the queen. He's like, all right, keep your eye on the queen, blah, blah, blah. And he's mixing all up. It's a shell game. I got, guys, this is a trap. Stay away from that. These guys got good sleight of hand to go and take your money. Well, there was a guy in the audience, and he took one of the cards. He took the queen when the dealer wasn't looking, and he ripped the corner of it. And he said, shh, don't say nothing. And he kind of slipped it back in there. So the guy comes back, he starts shuffling the cards up again, and I'm like, oh, I can see the one with the rip on it, right? So I plopped down $250. It was all the money I'd ever seen in my entire life, because we used to get meal money when we go on these extended trips. And so I plopped down everything I had right there, and I go, yeah, it's this one right here. He goes, all right, turn it over. And I turned that thing over, and it was a king and not the queen. Oh, my God. Life left my body.
So you got set up by the guy in the crowd?
Believe it. And those two turkeys, they roar into laughter, right? It's like, oh, yeah, Mr. Citywise. You're going to show you won't protect us, this, that, look at you now you broke. And we were walking back to the hotel down the sidewalk, and all these other guys kept going, hey, big fish. We got a big fish over here. Come on, fish. Let's play again. I'll get your money back, and that kind of thing. And I was just so pissed and embarrassed. All I wanted to do was go back to the hotel room. Those suckers wouldn't let me borrow any money. I ended up going hungry for the next couple of days.
Wow. Well, all I heard from that story is that you had $250 for your per diem on the road. So your per diem in North Carolina was a little bit more than ours at DePaul. So I'll say that.
that was several days worth, though.
Right. Okay. I'll give you that. So at what point when you're playing in North Carolina, did you think, hey, I'm pretty good at this game, maybe I'll have a career as a professional, or, I can play in the NBA?
Well, one of the greatest things about playing in Chapel Hill for the Tar Heels was there's already so many dudes that were in the pros, not just hanging on here and there, but starring in the NBA. I mean, James Worthy with the LA Lakers, and Brad Daugherty, and of course Michael Jordan. And these cats went, Walter Davis, the Greyhound, he used to come. They used to come back in the summertime and play amongst each other, but also include the guys that were on the current roster. It happened if it's going on for years. So you get a chance to get in those games. And you're not at that level yet as a freshman and as a sophomore, but you start to see and you pick things up and you learn things, and you're better one game from the next. And it helps you improve at a rapid pace with your skills, but with your confidence. Like, that was the biggest thing. Like, you start understanding that, okay, I'm getting moved around a little bit, but now I'm learning how to sit down in a post when you're guarding somebody, get on their thighs, or hook them down kind of close to their knees so they'll give up a little position. Little tricks like that, because they don't want you down there messing with your knees and stuff like that. You move a guy just off the block a little bit. Now his angle is not as good, and he doesn't have an advantage, and now you got the advantage. So you start picking up little things like that, and it helps you. And then you start believing, like, okay, that dream is now starting to become a reality. I could do this if I start, if I just get a little bit more serious. Because you come in as a freshman, you think you're working hard, and then Coach Smith breaks you down. He's like, no. You don't got no idea what it takes to get to the next level yet. And JR was probably one of the slowest guys to accept that fact. And he's now some, I don't want to say battles with Coach Smith, because you didn't battle with Coach Smith. And he was respectful of that, but it took him a little longer to realize this coach is going to get me where I need to go if I start, losing my tune and really locking in on what they're trying to do.
So coming out of high school, you had that great, jump after those tournaments, top 5 in the country. Then you go undrafted into the NBA. What was that like? Because back then, top 5 in the country, even now, people are thinking like, oh, you're for sure into the NBA. You don't get drafted. Like, what were those emotions that you went through when you weren't drafted?
I was devastated. Embarrassed.
Yeah.
You got to realize. I mean, like you said, not everybody was going to go. You couldn't go one and done back then. It was unheard of. The physicality of the NBA, as you coming in as a freshman, you couldn't hold up to the rigors the way the game was played. Like, you didn't spend 7 months on campus like Zion Williams. Well, it's not Zion Williams, might have been. That's a big dude. Yeah. Most of the guys weren't built like that. And to be able to play at the next level. I think Rex Chapman did it after his sophomore year, but that's a 2-guard. I mean, you're going to play in the post, or you're going to get beat up on a nightly basis. So you didn't make that jump. So I had to spend 4 years there, and I had a good 4-year career. Wasn't great. I wasn't like in national news, but in the ACC, I held my own. Most people would say I was a solid player in the conference, and so I was projected to kind of be a mid to late first rounder or late first rounder or early second rounder. So I had some friends. I didn't go to New York, but I had some friends come by the apartment complex and have a little party with my girlfriend, and my brother was there. And you go through that whole first round, you don't get drafted, and you're like, oh, better retreat to the back bedroom where I can be a little more alone. And then the second round goes by and people have left, and you're like just devastated. Like, what now? I would have thought for sure I was going to get drafted. And I had myself a good cry. And as the next day, Coach Smith said he had a couple teams that had called, and that I got an invitation to go play in a basketball camp that MJ was having in Greensboro for a buddy of his who ran a week-long basketball camp for underprivileged kids. And that if I wanted to come down, he's going to write some of his pro buddies, Rod Higgins, Charles Oakley, Bugsy Bogues played. We had 15 guys there. Good players, and I went, I got to go play against pro talent to see if I can play at this level. And so I go drive to Greensboro, playing this hot little gym. It's only the campers and their immediate family there. Don't sell tickets, no media, nothing. And guys just went at it. In fact, Jordan has everybody in the locker room before we take the court. Campers are getting settled out there in the gym. And he goes, if you didn't come to play hard, there's the door. Like, it's like that was going to be like an all-star game, like these barnstorming games. You kind of playing against some teachers or whatever. You're scoring points, shooting three, getting some dunks. And he's like, nah, it's going to be a game. Guys picking up just on the other side of half court, hitting guys with forearms, no easy layups. One year, not this particular year, but Jordan even took a shot from Lance Blanks, busted his eye open, had to go get stitches in the locker room, and he still came back out and finished the game. It's like he's already got championship rings on his fingers by this point. So I get on Jordan's team, playing pretty good, got some dunks and some traffic, pulled out some offensive boards. And so we find ourselves down one late in the game, and I get an offensive board. And I'm thinking to myself, there's this little time left on this clock. I can go back up with this, or I can get the ball to the baddest dude to ever put on a pair of basketball shoes and get it to him. So I fire a perfect textbook pass, the way Coach Smith taught me, right to MJ and on the baseline, and he makes this, that patented jump shot where he goes up and the tongue is out, and he knocks down about a 19-footer to put us up one and give us the win. So years later, I find out because of that performance in that game, after the game when they was leaving the gym, Fred Whitfield tells me that Jordan calls Krause and tells Krause to give me a little look-see. But here's the funny thing. I'm rambling. Here's the funny thing. I almost screwed it up because I go down to Charlotte afterwards. Because I think, okay, this is only a second-year expansion team. Rex Chapman's on the team. He was picked in their first year. JRE just got picked. I'm thinking, looking at some of the other bigs on the roster, I go, I can make this squad. So I go down there for we're going to be like summer league, and they go, oh, you got a bad shoulder. We're not gonna draft you. And I went, well, that's probably why the reason I didn't get drafted in the first place. Everybody was pulling on my shoulder in Chicago in the pre-draft camp. They didn't think I would make it through an 80 to 100 game season at the NBA level. So I call my agent, tell him what happened. He's going, I got a ticket to you at the airport. Go to the airport and fly to Chicago. So I go to Chicago. The first person that I meet when I get off the plane is Jerry Krause. And he goes, yeah, we heard you just failed your physical in Charlotte. I was like, oh, no. Word travels fast. They're going to fail me too. He says, we know about the shoulder. We're going to give you an opportunity to make our rookie team that's going to play out in California. So I busted my butt for a couple of weeks prior to that summer league, and then made the summer league roster. From there, the rest is kind of history.
Well, I always tell people, a lot of people think that it's a foregone conclusion that if you're a good player, you're going to play in the NBA. And I think what your career kind of illustrates that it's not that easy. I mean, you're top 5 in the country as a freshman, go undrafted. But, as we talked before we went on, making the NBA as an undrafted free agent like both of us did is next to impossible. I mean, the statistics are it's kind of like when Han Solo was like, never tell me the odds. After I retired and I looked at the odds, I was glad that I never looked at them, because I don't know if I would have tried, had I known the odds. But, to make it and then to have a long career, even for a guy that's drafted is amazing. But to go undrafted and have a 15-year career is, almost unheard of. So kudos to you for that. Hats off. I mean, you had an amazing NBA career to stick around that long.
Thank you. And you're right. And probably a good thing we never did look at the odds, and I didn't look at the odds either. The one thing that I think I learned about myself during my time in North Carolina, and the going undrafted thing wasn't even the worst thing that happened to me at Carolina. So I have a decent freshman year. I don't start. We got some studs on the squad. I don't start, but I played in every game. So I'm coming into sophomore year, and Joe Wolf had graduated, and Dave Popson had graduated. So I knew I was going to be moving into that starting role. And I was really excited, and I'm looking forward to it now. Get more minutes, I get to start and play with more better guys on the floor. And then the first day of practice, Coach Smith knocks on my door early one morning, and I'm like, my roommate Jeff Denny answers the door, and he goes, "Coach Smith's here to see you." And I'm like, "Oh damn, what did I do wrong?" We've been back on campus for a while, and I'm going classes. Your mind starts racing, like, did I miss a class? Did I get in some trouble somehow? Like, Coach Smith doesn't just show up at our dorm anytime, but certainly not at 6:30 in the morning when you're getting ready for your first 7 a.m. class. And he asked Jeff to step out of the room, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is something bad. And he goes, "Scott, I got bad news for you. Your father has shot your mother and killed himself." And it was devastating. I mean, obviously, it's tragic. And I knew there was problems at home. My mom had left the house, and there was some issues, but I never thought anything like that would happen. And my first thought was, I need to sit the year out. I was a wreck. I couldn't concentrate for more than about 20 minutes at a time on anything. I don't know how I'm going to do school and a Dean Smith practice. And I asked Coach Smith, could I use my redshirt year? It was just the first day of practice, and I had my redshirt year available to me. And he was like, "No." I was a little shocked, like,
wow.
Okay. But he said, "I want you close to me." At least he didn't say that, but that was the sense that I got. He wanted to be able to keep his eye on me. And I think if he thought I was not going to play with the team and be around the team as much and not have to worry about playing in games, I would drift. And as it turned out, it was the best thing for me, because for those 3 hours, having to remember the offensive emphasis of the day, or the thought for the day, or the defensive emphasis, the plays for that matter, and competing was the best therapy for me. I couldn't think about anything else. My mind didn't drift back to sadness or those emotions that I was having around the events that took place. So that really gave me a sense that and I had a good sophomore year. I said, if I can do that, if I can handle that of high-level college athletics, I can do anything that I want to do in my life. So when I didn't get drafted, I didn't hang my head. I did for a day. I allowed myself that one night. Right. But I said I can accomplish anything I want. I think Coach Smith wouldn't let me give up on my dreams of being a pro ball player. It was something that my mother and I had a dreams of. Play for the LA Lakers one day. So I was determined to make that roster. So I do good at the rookie camp, and when I get the invitations to the veterans camp, there was one spot for the 7 guys that were trying out. Everybody else, the other 11 guys were on guaranteed contracts, and they didn't cut guys on guaranteed contracts back in the day. So I knew there was only one spot available on that roster for me. And the good thing about my situation in North Carolina is, as much as he's got talented players, Coach Smith taught us fundamentals of basketball and a philosophy of basketball. And that's really what the triangle offense really is. It's fundamentals and a philosophy that all 5 guys will be a part of the offense. And you got to be able to read and react and adjust to your players' movements and the defensive movements. And that gave me just enough of an advantage over guys that were just as talented as I was trying out for that spot, but that struggled getting that reading of that offense down and were making mistakes, or they weren't in the right place, or their timing was off. I picked up on that offense really, really quick and separated myself from some of the other guys trying out, and grabbed that last spot on the roster. But that was great to make the team. But as you said, if you just make the team as a undrafted rookie, more than likely you're only there for a cup of coffee. You maybe squeak out a season here, and then maybe a couple copies somewhere else with another team, and then either out of the league playing in Europe, or your career is done. And so when I made the squad, the first 5 games I didn't play. And I went back, they put me out in Wheeling, Illinois. I mean, the place is a little suburbs. The sidewalks got rolled up at 8:30. They roll up the sidewalks. And so I was out there one day at night, and I said, this is not the pro I want to be. I can't just be happy being on the bench. And I think it was that moment I could kind of see the city lights from the 3rd floor apartment that I was in. And I was like, I want people to know my name in this city by the time I leave. And that was like kind of like a little epiphany that I had, like, that's it. Time to go to work, time to figure out a way to get in the rotation. And I would challenge the starters. I would challenge Bill Cartwright. I'd find ways to get him to play a little bit harder than he wanted to in practice, so I could get more game type speed. You know, with Cartwright, it was just give him a shot in the ribs, a cheap shot. Give him a cheap shot in the rib, or knee him in his thigh hip area. He didn't like that. He had kind of a funky body. I don't know if you remember Bill Cartwright's body, but he had a little funky body. I think those were tender areas. Horace Grant, get up in his chest, hit him with a bow, talk a little trash, tell him Clemson wasn't SHIT, North Carolina. We ran the ACC. You never beat us. The stuff, just kind of get him going that way. And they played a little bit harder. And I started getting better as a result of it. And I started getting some minutes, started finding myself as one of the bigs off the bench in the second half of the season. And I was playing in the playoffs. And I was playing against Detroit Pistons. I was playing against the Los Angeles Lakers. And then that's when basketball at the pro level was rewarding to me. And I was, proud of myself for not giving up on my dream of being a pro player.
Yeah, and speaking of being a pro player, and one of the ways that I think that you were able to stay around 1991 playoffs, third game against the Lakers, you had 4 points, all free throws. You ended up with 4 points, I think 2 rebounds, 2 assists in 11 minutes. Like, what was that like?
4 points too.
No, wait. In the playoffs and in the, that's a big deal. In the finals, that's a huge deal. So what was that like to score and have such a big game against a team that you dreamed about playing, but not only doing that, but also doing it on the biggest stage in the world? I mean, what were those emotions like going through that?
It was so fun. I mean, I'm on the court with guys that I don't want to say idolize, but I grew up watching. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm supposed to go get my homework done. I sneak off to the back room, turn the radio on. So I listen to Chick Hearn, talk about Magic Johnson and Showtime Lakers. I got James Worthy and Jamal Wilkes and all these cats. And all of a sudden I find myself on the floor. In fact, hell, I wore 42 most of my career, and certainly at North Carolina, because of watching James Worthy. That James Worthy kind of was the player I really wanted to be. I mean, that's kind of how I wanted my game to be. Certainly didn't have the skill set, but didn't have the the body to be able to fly down the court the way he did and slam dunks and shoot the ball from the outside and all those types of things. But I wanted to be Worthy, and that's so I grew up watching these cats, and to find yourself out there on the floor, Magic Johnson's rumbling down the lane, you step in perfect time and take a charge, you get the ball back for your mates, or maybe an offensive rebound, you kick it back out and you reset the offense, it leads to a bucket. Those kind of things were, even just getting fouled and making a free throw. I was happy with anything. Being on the floor was so cool, and I was proud. I was like family and friends and high school buddies that were coming to the games or calling me up or paging. We had pagers back then. Paging you and stuff like that. It was like a dream come true. I wanted to be wearing a Lakers jersey, hoisting that championship. Hoisting that championship in the LA Forum, a place I used to go as a kid and buy the cheaper seats up by the rafters and try to sneak down lower to the lower bowl to get closer to the court, closer to the players, maybe to try to get an autograph or see the action up close. That's how I grew up. That was a huge thrill.
Now, talking about James Worthy, and I don't know if he's going to be a part of this, but I need your Mount Rushmore of Tar Heel greats. So you only get four.
That's a great question because I've never been asked it before, and you're catching me on the fly. Okay, I need 4 players. Jordan obviously going to be number 1. You put 3 rings on my finger.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I guess we got to have him. Yeah, okay.
Tar Heel legends. But then I got to go with my favorite guy, and probably deserves to be there anyway. The guy that idolized my game after number 42, which is funny because I didn't realize he wore 52 when he was at North Carolina, but he switched to 42 with the Lakers. So going with Worthy number 2. And then from there, you got to put a point guard out there. So best point guard probably to put North Carolina on the map was Phil Ford in that 4 corners offense that they used to run back in the day. And I love Kenny Smith. Sorry, Jet, but got to go with Phil Ford at the point. And my 5th one's kind of a little bit of a wild card because you can go a number of different ways. I mean, Vince Carter, Jerry Stackhouse, Rasheed Wallace, Tyler Hansbrough. A lot of guys deserve that next spot. Brad Daugherty. I mean, I can keep going on down the list, but this will shock a lot of people, and this is where I'm going to get debated a lot. But as a big guy, one of the things I always idolized was the way Sam Perkins was able to do a lot of the things for Carolina that didn't elevate him to that Worthy, Jordan, Ford status, but he was an integral part of, one, winning a national championship and winning a lot of games for the Tar Heels. They always say it's cool to score points, but defense wins games. And I take a little step forward, and I always say that rebounding wins championships. And that's one thing Sam Perkins could do. Hell, I think he's still number 1 in Tar Heel history as the leading rebounder. So those are my 4.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about defense wins championships, we all know that it doesn't stop, that defensive possession until you get that rebound. So if you cannot rebound, you're still going to be playing defense for a long time. And I played with Smooth in Seattle. That's my guy. So, yeah, I agree with that. And, you talk about him doing stuff that's not heralded. He still did enough to get drafted right behind Jordan. So he didn't do that bad. Now,
no, he did great. And I don't want to say he did bad. I only think I did a little pod with Big Smooth after one of the last dances. We started talking about, of course, Tar Heel basketball. And you forget Smooth played, I think, 17 or 18 years in the league. Yeah. One of the original bigs that could step out there behind that arc and knock down that 3. In fact, I was giving him grief for giving me a mild heart attack in game 1 of the NBA Finals. We were up by 1 or 2. I think it was 1. Up 1, and he stepped back behind the arc in the closing seconds of game number 1 and stroked a 3. And we lost game 1 in Chicago Stadium. I had a mini heart attack when that ball went through the net.
Well, it's funny. I actually interviewed him immediately after the Last Dance episode where he hit that 3, and I had no idea it was going to work out like that, but it worked out perfectly. And he told the story on why he started shooting 3s, and really it was something that I didn't know about. So something really interesting. Now, this is my next question that's a little bit more difficult than your previous one. Now, you're, I think, one of 3 players that have played with both Jordan and LeBron. So I feel like you're the guy to put this all, 4 guys? Okay, so I feel like you're the guy, and I like the flex you just did right there, showing your championship ring. So I'm not mad at that at all. So I feel like you're the guy to put the rest, this argument and this debate on who's the GOAT. So right here for everyone, who is the greatest of all time? Is it Jordan or is it LeBron?
You know,
and why?
I've gotten this question a few times, and the reason why I told you it was 4 guys because it was 3 for a long time, but then Brendan Haywood joined that group. Another Carolina legend, you know.
Yeah.
So, which is funny because I had, of the 4 guys, well, if you put all 6 guys in that group, I played with 5 of the 6. So not just I played with 2 of them, but I can't play 5 of the 6 because I'm one of the 6. But I played
so you're the Kevin Bacon. You're the Kevin Bacon of the NBA, is what you're saying.
What's that?
You're the Kevin Bacon of the NBA, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's it. Well, you play 15 years. That's a long time. You're going to catch some Hall of Famers. In fact, I did a show with Cliff Levingston, one of my old teammates, and he was saying he played with 6 Hall of Famers. So I started thinking, well, I play with a lot of Hall of Famers. I never had the thought to add them up, but I'm right there with Levingston as well. But to go back to the original question, I always hate to compare guys from certain eras, different style of basketball in the 90s than it is here in 2020, and there's no doubt about that. But one thing that I will say about this is you've got to answer this question because these are 2 special dudes. These aren't just Hall of Famers like, you know, Levingston was talking about. He played with 6 Hall of Famers, which are great. It's talented players. But these Jordan, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, that's a different class. There almost needs to be a sub building for in the Hall of Fame or maybe adjacent campus for those cats. That's how good they were. And so I'm not trying to slight anybody when I say who the best player is, but for me, the best player I ever saw was Michael Jordan. And that's not a slight at LeBron James. To me it was, they could do anything they want. They could control a game however they wanted to control a game and the outcome of the game. The thing that separates Jordan from LeBron was Michael Jordan, it didn't matter if he had scored, and I used to use this a lot, 30 points in Chicago Stadium or in New York, played 40 minutes, got beat up. I had to watch my language. Got beat up during the game, and we jumped on the plane and flew to the next city where we were going to play. Let's just say the Orlando Magic or the Charlotte Hornets, that were expansion teams that were struggling to even win a game. And you knew we were going to win the game. But for Jordan, his mindset was, whoever you put out there to guard me, I want them, whoever's going to guard me, his teammates, coaches, the trainer, the play-by-play guy, the fans sitting in the first row or the last row, people watching on TV or listening on radio, to know I'm the best player on the floor tonight. I am the best player in the NBA every night. I'm the best player in the world, and I'm going to embarrass this guy right here in front of me in a way that his family, his friends, and all his fans will think twice ever to think he's the best player they've ever witnessed. And that type of mentality after playing the night before, getting a big win, I don't care if he dropped 30, 40, 50, you would think he would just be riding high on. Nah. It was about making you walk off that floor when you got in your car with your radio off. so
Hey, Scott,
dejected and depressed.
your people are commenting. D'Angelo friend was like, "Come on, Scott, just say MJ the GOAT and be done." Hey,
that's too easy. That's too easy. That doesn't. It is. That doesn't paint the picture appropriately. Right. Like I'm saying, this guy wants to beat you so bad that you don't even think about that. Like, you know, if I had did this, or if I might have did that, or if I could have stopped him here, you know, I think I could beat him. Like he don't want you to think that you can beat him like 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 times. He wants you to go to bed that night and not even be able to dream well enough that you beat him in your dreams. You would be so dejected and lacking confidence in your own abilities.
All I gotta say is
that's the guy that I say, and that's the reason why I say LeBron doesn't have that. He doesn't have that. He's happy to win and compete and beat you and put in a nice performance, but not at that type of level where it's vicious, it's mean, it's personal. That I will take everything from you and feed it to you. That's the way that guy was. And now listen, that's the way that guy was in 1990, 91, before he had that championship ring. I don't know what he was like after he played baseball and he came back and he'd already had 3 or 4 or 5 rings and you're playing with him as a first-year teammate then. I don't know how jovial he was or how hard he went, you know, with all that mileage on him and the beat up for 5 years in the finals. I don't know how that guy was. I wasn't there for that. I didn't watch him on a nightly basis. I was trying to do my own thing with a pretty crappy Sixers team, you know. So I don't want to speak on what that guy was. I know the guy in 90, 91, that was a different kind of dude there.
Yeah, I always say about Jordan and what separates him from everyone else, like you mentioned, is just that mentality. And he was such a big picture guy that he, you know, like you said, when he played against you, he wanted to remind you, you know, because he didn't know if he was going to see you in the playoffs, in the finals, and just plant something into your mind. And, you know, most guys don't have that type of, you know, vision and big picture to, you know, do that sort of thing. So I definitely agree with that. And I feel like with the answer that you gave, you have a future in politics, because you definitely didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and you left stuff open for a lot of different ways. So yeah, I think we might have found a new avenue for you after this. So my next question has a little bit more to do about leadership. You know, what is Scott Williams? What is your legacy going to be?
Well, one, I like what I do now with my life. I'm very happy. First of all, I don't know if you mentioned this coming on, but I'm the color analyst at Grand Canyon University. Kind of that's my basketball. That's how I get satisfy my basketball Jones. And I enjoy being with those young kids. Not only just the players, but the students as well. I like to see that passion. It's actually really cool. Because I was out of that college arena for 25 years, from playing 15 years and broadcasting and coaching for another 11. Those were I'd kind of forgotten what that's like. And these college kids are different from we were in school now, the social media, all this stuff that they'll pull up some stuff. They'll get on one of the visiting teams' social media platforms and pull up stuff about his girlfriend and maybe his dancing ability or whatever, and they'll ride these cats, man, and pregame warm-ups and stuff. It's actually kind of fun most of the time. They keep it lighthearted. I got a couple knuckleheads I kind of want to, clack them together like, no, you're crossing the line. You start giving out, the players' telephone numbers and stuff like that. But I've enjoyed the college aspect of it, and as a result of that, started Dream Team Academy in Scottsdale, where we work with young players, basketball players, on the court with their skills, but we also teach them life goals, things in life, which is really cool. But it's been a two-way street. For as much as we're trying to help them, it has helped me grow as well. And you often realize, especially with someone else's kid, when you're trying to communicate something, whether it be on the court or we have a little computer lab where you're trying to teach them or talk to them about things, everyone's different, man, whether it's at least boys and girls. So everything is a little different how you talk to somebody. So you, one of the things I like, and I got to read this so I don't mess it up, is what makes one person successful will rarely make another person successful. It's like trying to teach a monkey trying to teach a fish to swing from trees. Well, it's just not going to happen, right? So you must be brave enough to discover your own path without comparisons. And I'm even reading that, I didn't do a very good job with it, but it just lets you know that the success that you had with one child may not be successful in trying to teach another child. And that's really helped me to grow, not only as a person, but as a business person. I have a media and security company called Anytime Media and Security. And I always say the toughest part of running a business is not the actual business. It's managing the employees that work for you. We're a small company. We only got like 12 full-time employees, but they're still all different. You got that one cat that always walks in 1 minute before it's time to be late. He's going to be late, and then you got other guys that are there, and they come in, they relax, and have their morning coffee and stuff like that. And you got to handle everybody a little bit different. So the growth that I've had from helping young players and then helping me in business, those are the cool things that I'm learning, life lessons. Not so much daily, but definitely weekly.
Very nice, very nice. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you see yourself doing?
Well, the analyst work has been great, and how I got my start over there is I got fired in Milwaukee late after the Bucks sold the team. I come back to Phoenix, and Coach Dan Marley and I are business partners and friends, and he had been coaching at Grand Canyon University, and I had read about it when I was in Milwaukee, and I was like, Grand Canyon, where's that? And then found out Jerry Colangelo had gotten involved in. For people that don't know, Jerry Colangelo, dude, USA Basketball, people know him from that, but he's the godfather of Phoenix sports. He brought the Suns to Phoenix in '68. He brought the Diamondbacks, Major League Baseball, to the Valley. So I had some people that were asking me to step into the analyst role because they knew I had done it NBA level. And I kind of really didn't want to. I'm like, I don't want to drive to the Grand Canyon to do these games. It's like 4 hours. That's such a heck of a drive. And didn't even know that Grand Canyon is like right on the west side of Phoenix. So I didn't know a whole lot about the school. And the president over there, he's just a big hoops junkie, President Mueller. So he finally said, I want you to just come meet with me and talk with me. And let me explain my vision and what we got going on here. And when Jerry had asked me and a meeting with President Mueller, I was like, first of all, you don't let Jerry know. If Jerry asked you to do something in the Valley, you're going to do it, or at least to find a way to make him happy. And so I kind of begrudgingly did it. It was just home games. I didn't have to travel, which was kind of cool, not having to travel after 25 years of traveling around the country. And I just loved it. I loved everything about it. I talked to you about the spirit of these kids, and they have this root section called the Havocs. And they were winning 20 plus games a year. They won 27 one year, so it was a fun environment to be around. And they scheduled tough teams, like Kentucky and Indiana, Duke. So you get to see, programs that you played against, and you relive some of your Carolina experiences and put those onto a college broadcast. So it's been really fun. I really enjoyed the broadcasting, but this year they got off to a slow start. They had some injuries. They had some suspensions, and they've made a change now. So Coach Marley, Dan, is out. They replaced him with Bryce Drew, who I think will be very successful there. But I would like to look at opportunities to get into coaching again, and especially at the college level, which I never thought I would want to go back and coach college kids. So I'm kind of open to a lot of different atmospheres. And with everything going on right now, it's kind of a difficult time. And I'm happy to have the GCU broadcasting gig, but I want to do some other things as well.
Well, you mentioned Colangelo being the godfather of Phoenix sports. I don't know if you knew this, but he actually is a guy that started the Bulls and brought the Bulls to Chicago. I didn't know that until, this past Legends brunch. So he might be one of the godfathers of basketball. I mean, as many, fingers as he has in sports. I just wanted to say, thank you for joining me on here. Let everybody know where they can reach you, where they can. We're coming up on an hour.
Another hour, bro.
Hey, it's been an hour. You tell some good stories.
Well, listen, I've enjoyed it. So don't thank me. I'm thanking you. I just had a blast. I get to flash the ring, which I normally never wear. Nice. It's uncomfortable. Unless it's like something special, a wedding or a charity event or something like that. People generally ask to see it. But I've been enjoying talking Bulls 90s basketball, reconnecting with you and with the NBA. And, you sat here and gave a lot of praise to me, and I got to give some right back. How hard it is not being drafted to play in the NBA. So kudos for you for not giving up on your dreams too.
I appreciate that. And actually now we have, 10 more minutes to talk about me just playing. If I had that ring though, I would have that ring on all the time. I would be at restaurants and I'd be like, oh, you don't take championships you can't play with championships. So yeah, you're a lot better than me, because if I had won a ring, nobody would be able to talk to me ever. Just walking around, I'd have it, and with 3 rings, I'd have one for each hand and a necklace. But tell everybody.
It doesn't even get me a free coffee down here in Austin to wear it. But if I was back in Chicago, maybe it would get me a free dessert at a nice restaurant.
Yeah, that's a good point. In Austin, they're looking more at the indie bands and that kind of stuff to get free coffee. Let everybody know where they can
keep Austin weird.
Right. Well, let everybody know where they can follow you on social media to keep up with the Scott Williams
on social media. My Twitter is @ScottWill, WILL 42. That's kind of a play on the whole willpower kind of a thing. And then I'm on Instagram. I believe it is again @ScottWill 42 for Instagram. I think that's how they use their call signs on Instagram. And my LinkedIn again is. You can find me on LinkedIn. I don't even know how you find me on LinkedIn, but I think it's just Scott Williams or Coach Williams or something along those lines. But I've been enjoying it. My quarantine confession is I'm spending way too much time on social media sites. I repost a lot of the podcasts that I do. I'm gonna ask you to resend this one to me so I can put it on my Twitter. But Instagram is weird. It's all new to me. I don't know how to operate it very well yet. So I'm learning that. I was like, LeBron, I got like maybe 300 followers. LeBron James has got like 25 million followers on Instagram. Like, how's that possible? The Kardashians. I'm following Serena Williams. I'm like, all these people are on Instagram. I had no idea about IG. And then my daughter during the quarantine has introduced me to TikTok. So I'm a TikTok junkie now. I love TikTok.
Oh yeah, TikTok is cool.
But I watch everyone's video. Any dance they do, I like it because I'm too afraid to try it.
Okay, so on TikTok, you don't post, but you're just kind of that lurker that's just around, looking at other people's stuff.
I'm the old lurker guy in the back of the club watching everybody dance stirring his cocktail.
Oh my gosh! Well, I like your Twitter name with that willpower. I think everybody during this pandemic needs some willpower tips because this is just a whole new world, the whole new normal. So that's great stuff right there. But again, I appreciate you.
I don't like this new normal. I'll be safe out there. I know these cities are starting to open up again, but let's use some common sense. Let's be safe. Listen to the scientists, please.
Yes. I agree with that tenfold. But again, I wanted to thank you for spending this hour with me. Scott Williams, 15-year NBA vet, 3-time world champion, amazing guy, UNC great. Got the ring, the bling. So hey, thanks a lot, Scott. And we'll catch up with you in the future. So hey, man, you stay safe, and thank you for spending this time with us. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you for having me on your pod.
All right, man.
Later.